I read the story this last week of a dad who's driving down the freeway. They're on family vacation. They're all in the minivan. And all of a sudden he sees a policeman in his rearview mirror. What's the first thing you do when you see a policeman? Check your speed, right? So he checks his speed. He's like, shockingly, doing the speed limit. And he hadn't done anything wrong. And he looks, and there's a policeman. And then there's 4 more. And then they surround him. And they pull him over, and he's rolling down his window to say, well, excuse me, officer, can I help? They don't even listen to him. They grab him by the arm. They throw him on the ground. They put his arms behind his back, and they handcuff him. And he's freaking out. Can you imagine? Because what's happening? In the back seat, his child had taken the crayons and paper that they had given him, and he had wrote this sign, "Help, I'm being kidnapped." Look, you can't always be watching. I mean, you can do everything you can. You can call them, you can show up, you can have your friends watch them. Install Ring. Oh my gosh, install Ring. That way you know what that boy is trying to kiss your daughter, right? You can see it right there. But you can't always be watching. Look, I have amazing children. But boy, I had help. Church was never an option. And we showed up and we got them at church. And they heard about Jesus. And they heard about purity. And between 13 and 18, I don't know if you knew this, they don't listen to you or like you. But they listen to Chad. And they listened to Kirsten Loy, who was our youth pastor before that. And she told truth to them. Your soccer coach will never do that. Your dance instructor will not do that. Your youth pastor will do that. Look, if you don't believe in the resurrection, all this is useless. Think of all those parties you did not go to. Think of all those people you did not sleep with. Think of all that money that you could have cheated out of people in your life. Heck, think of all that money you foolishly put in the offering. This is everything. This is all we got. That Jesus Christ loved us so much, that he wanted to be in relationship with us. But God, man, we're going our own different directions, and we were making all these mistakes. We weren't worthy of heaven. So Jesus died on a cross. He was totally innocent. Died anyway. And then 3 days later, he came back. This is our hope. This is all we've got, people. So as I was finishing up this message, I got a text from a friend of mine who was battling cancer. And the text was awesome. You know, you get a lot of ugly ones. I'm going into radiation, or I'm going into chemo, or I feel really sick. This one was, I got results. I'm clean. It's awesome, right? Like, you want to celebrate that. Do you know what my friend's ultimate hope is? Her ultimate hope isn't that, well, now I'll be able to go be a professional athlete. Now maybe my singing career will take off. Maybe I'll get to be a millionaire. Heck, her ultimate hope isn't, man, I'll spend the rest of my life cancer-free. Here's her hope. That when she goes, because something will get her. I hope it's not cancer. But someday something will get her. When she dies, Jesus Christ has secured eternity for her. But then there was another guy, and his car had just been pulled in. And I started talking to him. And he said, my wife was tailgating somebody, I guess, and she ran into him, and airbags deployed, and that's my SUV. And I said, is she okay? He says, actually, she's not. That she broke bones in her face from the airbag. And that was just the night before. So I said, well, I want you to know who you ran into today. I'm I'm pastor of a church in San Diego, and would you mind if we just took a second and prayed for your wife? And so I did. And tears streaming down his face, and we lifted up his wife. And I love to tell that story. But let me tell you another story. There was a buddy of mine that he was fighting a battle that he was not going to win. And I would go to see him every couple of weeks. And one time I showed up, and I got this weird vibe. And as I was leaving, his wife said, we're thinking about having you do his funeral service, but I don't think we want to have you do it anymore because you just haven't been there for us. And I was devastated. And fortunately, the next week, I called and begged to get back into his life. And I guess here's why I want to tell you that. This idea of WWJD, man, this can be guilt-producing, can't it? Because I know you guys, you're not Jesus. And awesome, honestly, sometimes WWJD stands for What Would Jack Do? And Jack can be selfish and into his own world sometimes. And I know that will probably happen to you. You probably will let somebody down. Maybe you won't. Maybe you're that person. If you are that, God bless you. But I want to tell you that when you do show up, that when you keep your eyes up, when you do hear about a need, and you jump in, it makes a difference. What is it about us that we want to take this relationship with the living God that will transform our lives and turn it into this to-do list of you can do this, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't go here, you can't drink that, you can't dance like that. Why do we do that? If you have a Bible, open it up to the book of Colossians chapter 2. I will also have the verses up on the screen, which will help you. For the next few minutes, we're going to look into this book because it turns out that the issue they had in the 50s, they have been having for thousands of years. Let me give you context to these verses. There's a guy named Epaphras. He lived in 50 AD. He had become a Christian. I don't know. I think he was at a, Maranatha concert. I don't know where he was at, but he became a Christian, followed Jesus, and he went 100 miles away to this place called Colossae. And he started to tell people about this relationship that he had. And more people started to follow. And pretty soon there were hundreds of people following Jesus. It became so big that the Apostle Paul, who wrote 2/3 of the New Testament, Paul was a traveling missionary. Paul never went to Colossae. He never met these people. But it had become so big that he wanted to write them a letter to encourage them in their faith. And one of the things that he talked to them about was this: rules, regulations. See, all these people in Colossae were Gentiles, which Gentile essentially means not Jewish. Well, all the Jewish Christian people found them and said, hey, look, you're following God. Why don't you add on top of that some of our Old Testament things that we used to do? Like we had this really great rule about circumcision. Now, how do you think that conversation went? Hey, guys, come on. I got this great idea for you. Everything that you eat really should be kosher. You shouldn't eat pork. Man, I don't know how that went. Like, really? No bacon? And these people started to follow the traditions. Even though it was an Old Testament thing, even though God never asked them to do that, even though really what he wanted was a relationship with them, they started to do it anyway. Tired? God was tired. God needed some Gatorade and, some fruit snacks or something. Cheese stick? No. The reason why he did it is he's modeling that behavior. He wants us to realize that if we wear ourselves out, we're not going to be good at what we're doing. We're not going to be thinking about it as much. We're not going to be thinking as sharply. that you won't succeed that way. You need to take a rest. Now, actually have some experience with wood cutting. I didn't use this though. I worked at a place called Forest Home for a lot of years, 7 years of my life. And part of those 7 years, Jelaine and I, we lived in this cabin up in the mountains. And the cabin had a potbelly stove. And so you could put wood in there and it would really heat your house up great. And Jelaine loves the sound of a crackling fire. And so I thought, well, wood would be great. I heard that around the camp, what they would do for you is if you wanted to, they would lend you all the equipment and give you the day to take care of a fallen tree. Because around Forest Home, it's up in the San Bernardino Mountains, there are fallen trees everywhere. And so they need to get rid of them. And so they would lead you to a place and you could chop wood, cut wood all day. And so they gave me a chainsaw. And so for the day, I spent on this, this tree that had fallen. I just cut log after log after log after log. I loaded up the truck and just kept going. But after a certain while, I started to wear down, right? I started to get a little tired. I started to get a little less sharp. And there was one moment that I realized, you know what? It's probably good that I quit. And that was the moment when I looked down and I realized that I had just cut the laces off the top of my shoe with my chainsaw. Listen, if you get to the place where you are working so hard and pushing so hard and putting in so many hours, you will get to the place where you make foolish mistakes. And God asks us to put on a regular basis this moment of rest, because it doesn't just rest your body, it gives you time to reflect. It gives you time to be better at what you're doing. This is the month of the year when Time Magazine comes up with their person of the year. You know who their person of the year is this year? Snoop Dogg. I'm kidding. Elon Musk. And every time they introduce the person of the year, there's always controversy. I looked up who the person of the year was, and then the second article was this: worst choice ever. Intense backlash after Elon Musk names Time's person of the year. Now, I don't know what you think of Elon Musk. I like his cars. That's all I'm saying. But he's not the worst person that they've ever decided as person of the year. Do you know that Richard Nixon was person of the year? Twice, back-to-back years. Do you know that in 1938, they voted a person of the year, and in 1939, that person invaded Poland? It was Adolf Hitler. Look, no matter who they vote, there's always controversy. Well, 21 years ago, they voted the person of the century, and that person was Elvis. No, it wasn't. That person... although that would have been so cool. Again, it's Albert Einstein. But still, when they said that it was Einstein, there was all kinds of baggage, there's all kinds of backlash. But here's the deal. If you try to determine who is the one person who has made the greatest impact on the history of the world, there is no debate. There's not even a second. Because this person, there are more hospitals built in his name. There are more churches constructed in his name. More alcoholics get free because of this one person. More families are put together because of this one person. The instrument that caused his death is the single most recognizable symbol in the entire world, and some of you are wearing a cross right now. Tonight, there will be more traffic jams in England and Quito, Ecuador, and Seoul, South Korea, and Little Sleepy Scripps Ranch because of his birthday. And he started in a crib. It's not how you start, it's how you finish.